Creeps! Andy here, and today I have my reading wrap up from the last month, whatever it was, August? Yeah, because we're in September now. Guys, it's almost October! I can't believe it! So anyways, here are the books that I've read this month, and we're just gonna go through and talk about each one. You guys know the drill. The first book that I read was Stephen King's Thinner, and let me tell ya, this might be controversial. I think this was my least favorite Stephen King book that I've ever read. It's about a man who pisses off some gypsies by doing something illegal. So like the concept I feel like is cool because the gypsies, and I know that that's an outdated term and stuff, I'm just using the terms that are in the book, but the gypsies don't think that the balance of like the scales of justice worked well, because this main character, who I already forget his freaking first name, doesn't matter, the main character does something bad and gets off the hook basically for it. I won't go into too much detail, but the gypsies think that it's unfair. So what they do is they put a curse on this man that he continues to lose weight. Anything he does, he just continues to lose weight. So, you know, it's like the scales of justice and then like a literal scale. It's a cool concept. I get what you're going with it. And that's not even the part that I really disliked. The first half of the book I found quite interesting. And it is kind of interesting to just go through and see how he handles this and what he ends up doing, because everybody in his life kind of thinks that he's losing his mind when he tells them that the gypsies have cursed him. It's really the second half of the book that I had an issue with. And then, of course, besides the fact of like, oh, they're gypsies, they definitely set curses on you. Oh, that guy's Italian, he's definitely in the mob. Like, I don't know. Besides all that, the second half of the story is just kind of weird. A lot of it is told, he ends up going after the gypsies, and a lot of it is told through the perspective of a guy that he has kind of fight his fight for him. So the guy will come back to his hotel room and then it'll be just 10 pages of him explaining what he did to like on behalf of this man. I don't know, the way that that second half was told was just kind of weird and I didn't really love it. I'm gonna be honest. I know that might be controversial. Yeah, I mean, I guess this was written as Richard Bachman, but I know that it got turned into a movie and I know that people enjoy it. So yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about this one, but let me know how you feel. Also, none of the characters are enjoyable, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that it takes a good writer to be able to write a story about characters that nobody can connect with, that are kind of pieces of shit, but the story is still interesting enough to keep the audience engaged. And you know, he's just kind of an ass and you kind of don't really care what happens to him. And also the gypsies, like, you also kind of want to root for them because of what happened. You know, you're like, well, that isn't fair, maybe something else should have happened, but then at the same time they're pieces of shit too, so you just don't really like, I don't know, the second anybody does something to a dog, I'm like, screw you, and both sides did horrible things to dogs, and therefore I hate everyone in the book. I think that's probably an appropriate response. Anyways, the next one that I read was The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim, and I'm not even going to go into this one because we are having a full live stream to talk about this book. I'm very excited. It'll probably be not this Sunday but next Sunday, so I will keep you posted. I'll let you know before, you know, when we pick a time and everything. I'll post a little community tab so everyone will know, or if you want to go to my Instagram, I'll definitely keep you updated there too. I'll do like quizzes to see what time everybody wants it to happen at, so we can kind of get as many people in as possible that want to be there. So we're going to talk all about this one. We're going to go into more detail, analyze some different themes and, you know, imagery in this one. I'm very excited. But basically just the general premise of this story is there's this young girl and her mother has just started dating a man and she doesn't quite get along with him, and she's really not doing well in any aspect of her life, with school, socially, with friends, and then at her home life because her father recently left their family. So you kind of just go on this, I'll call it a journey with her, and she has dreams where she's eating eyeballs. It's an interesting read and I'm very excited to talk about it, and I'm so excited to learn what you guys think about that one. So yeah, that will be soon. The next book that I read was Intercepts. This is by TJ Payne, and this book actually one of you guys sent to me in my P.O. box. You just mailed me a book which is so nice. And I was really wanting to read this book anyway. So it was just, yeah, it was a very nice surprise. So thank you so much to the person that sent this to me. But this book was so fun. It's about a man who works at this secret facility where they're housing these humans, and you don't really quite know what they're doing, but the humans are definitely being, like, their senses are being dulled, and so they don't know that they're there, and they can't speak and they can't communicate, and you're not really sure what the community is about or what the father is doing to these people. He has a young daughter. Well, I don't want to give away what this book says. Okay, it just says that the government wanted to unlock hidden abilities in the human mind. They put subjects in extreme sensory deprivation. All the test subjects went violently insane, but the research continues. Today, it has been perfected, almost perfected. That's all the back says. So I guess maybe that's just where I'll leave you. But this story was so original. It was so fun. And there's a bit of everything. You know, you kind of have family drama, you have action and adventure. There's definitely some creepy scenes in there. So you got some horror and thriller and mystery elements as well. It's just a bit of everything. Science fiction. I mean, it's just a fun ride. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for whoever sent it to me, because it was fun. And I do recommend it. It's definitely original, and books that are that original, you just gotta applaud, you know, because you think everything's been said and done before, and then you read a book like that and you're like, that was so satisfying. The next one that I read was Dut Disaster by Addison Moore. This is my, man, I always forget my things and then I lose them and I can't find them until I do these wrap-ups, and then I find them in the books that I've finished. Anyways, sorry. This is my cozy mystery murder in the mix series. I don't even know what number this is, but kind of the same thing happens, you know, there's a murder and Lottie Lemon solves it, and it's just a cute freaking story. I don't think that there was really anything additional in this one. It was just kind of like a lot of the others. They're cute, they're fun, they're spicy, not like in a sexual way, but in more of like a, they go to like strip clubs and naked yoga sessions and just like weird shit happens, and they're freaking cute and I love them, and I'd want to live in Honey Hollow. The next one that I read was I Found You by Lisa Jewell. So this one is about a woman who lives with her children kind of on, it's not at the ocean, it's at a lake. So she lives on a lake. Oh no, her name's Alice Lake. Wait, what the fuck kind of body of water is it? Yeah, I don't know. Some body of water. She lives by some body of water. And she goes out one day and she sees a man sitting there. And when she starts communicating with him, she finds that he doesn't remember his name. He doesn't remember who he is, but he seems there. He's just kind of lost his memory. And so she ends up taking him in and kind of helping to try to regain his memory back. Then you go back in time to the 90s, where a family is visiting that same town, and it's a husband, wife, a son, and a daughter, and there's a young boy who's obsessed with their daughter and kind of follows her around. And at first she's into it, and then she's kind of not so into it. And then you also have a third kind of story where there's a woman whose husband has gone missing, and she's trying to find her husband. So you keep going along with all of these stories until, you know, obviously eventually they all connect at the end. This one was a super slow burn, and I was thinking about Lisa Jewell books, and I think that's honestly how a lot of them are. They're not crazy action-packed, a million twists and turns. It's just kind of people living their lives, and I do enjoy that about her stories. And I remember I got a comment a while ago that said Lisa Jewell books are so boring, and I was thinking, that's why I like them, because they're not like thrillers where crazy things have to happen in order to keep your attention. They're just honestly well written and interesting characters, and I like seeing where they end up. So I did enjoy this one. It wasn't my favorite Lisa Jewell, but it was still enjoyable, and I still liked the read, and the characters were quite interesting. This is how you read a Lisa Jewell book. You read it and you're like, oh, okay, you know, we're getting to maybe the twist or the big event or the reveal, and then you just go, oh, okay, and then you keep reading. So it's not like a typical thriller book where you build up to this crescendo and then the killer's revealed and you're like, what? that's crazy. And then the last 20 pages of the book are so boring because now you know who the killer is and it doesn't really matter. Her books aren't really like that. They're more character development. They're more focused on the specific lives of the people as opposed to these big, huge plot points. So yeah, that's how I would talk about her work. Guys, the next book that I read was Sewer Sharks. This is by Christopher Robertson. This was my first book I ever read from him, although I do have another book from him on Kindle that now I'm definitely gonna read. And I wrote a review on Goodreads. I'll read you the review, but basically it's just about this girl that's going to work at a, oh my gosh, what do you call those things? Aquarium. She's like an expert, a shark expert. And so she specifically wants to go because there's a specific shark that she wants to study that they have. So she starts working there, but she's staying in kind of a crappy hotel and she doesn't know anybody in the town and she's trying to get over a breakup. And then you also have these people that worship Gator Jesus. So they're like a backwoodsy kind of religious group who believes that Jesus will resurrect as a gator. And then you also have this kid who's a drug dealer. And then you have this shark who's going through the sewer systems killing people. Okay, so that's like the basic setup of the story. So this is my review of it. I said orgies, cults, sharks exploding out of an anus. That did happen. Slaughter, Gator Jesus, evil scientists, and a corrupt sheriff. What more could you ask for? It felt like reading the novelization of Sharknado and Piranha 3D's gory love child in the best possible way. Well written and just plain fun. And that is exactly how I feel about this book. It really did feel like I was reading Sharknado or Piranha 3D. And I love B horror films, and I love B horror films that don't take themselves too seriously, that know that they're B horror films. And the fact that this book was so well written and it wasn't just like shittily put together, and it was actually really like impressively written structurally, that everything kind of made sense and came back around, and it was a fun freaking read. I really enjoyed this book. I was honestly blown away. I bought it because I was supposed to go to the beach with my friends, and so I was looking for just shark books to read at the beach. I thought that that would be fun. I ended up getting a massive migraine and then being in bed for like 2 or 3 days, so I didn't even end up getting to go to the beach, but I did still read Sewer Sharks, and I was so happy that I bought it because yeah, I really enjoyed it. If you guys have any other books that you've read from him that you enjoy, please feel free to leave them down below because I'm very excited to read more of his work. Really well written, just like fun, silly book. Next up, I read, I'm pretty sure, once this loads, I read Survive the Night by Riley Sager. This is the last Riley Sager book that I haven't read before, so I read it this month. And I'm going to do an entire Riley Sager ranking of books, and I believe this might have been, okay, no, it wasn't. I thought that this was for some reason the first book that he ever published, but it was not. Okay, this one, you guys, I have such mixed feelings about. It's about a girl. It takes place in the 90s. She goes on a ride share to be taken home because there's a killer on, there's a killer on campus who murdered her friend. And so she's going on this ride share to try to get away from all the horrible memories, essentially. She's leaving a boyfriend behind and some friends, and she just wants to go home. She's kind of over it. She goes and she's driving home with this man, but then she starts to suspect that he may have had something to do with the killings, okay? And then the story continues from there. I like Riley Sager books because I feel like he does breathe kind of new life into these overly used tropes in the thriller genre. And so you go, oh, I know exactly where this is going. And then things kind of take a turn and you're like, okay, cool, not what I expected. I like that, at least in some of his novels. So it's not that it was crazy predictable, but like the killer could have only been one person, you know? So, and that's fine. Like I wasn't even really mad that I knew who the killer was or that it was obvious. She also plays movies in her head, so she has kind of these hallucinations that play out. And I mean, like it was a fine book. I guess it just didn't maybe feel as like well written as some of his other books. And I thought it was because it was an older novel, but now I'm reading it and it's not. But it was a cool subject. Oh, that's what I didn't like about it. The ending. Yes, okay. I didn't super love the ending, but it was original and interesting. And that's the thing about Riley Sager books, is even if I don't enjoy where the story ended or some aspects of the story, I still enjoyed the ride getting there. So it's so hard to talk about a book because I'm like, but I enjoyed the ride. Like, I enjoyed reading it, even if there were some things where they weren't my favorite, you know? But I feel like most of the times when you read a book and there are those things that you don't like the ending, you don't like the ending, it kind of ruins the book for you. And Riley Sager books aren't really like that for me. But I don't know, I'll do a whole ranking and we'll talk about that. The next one that I read was Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valenti. This one, I don't know why I bought this. I don't know where I saw it. I read somewhere that it was a disturbing read, but it's not really a disturbing read. It feels, and please don't let me influence you in a negative way, because this is not at all what the book is about or like, but the first half of the book feels a little bit like Stepford Wives mixed with a fairy tale. So it's about this woman who's married to this man. They live in this town, but they can't go out after dark, and there's really strict rules, and everyone seems to kind of be on their best behavior, and she seems to be the one questioning things and, you know, trying to get people to talk and stuff. But her house is really weird, and the furniture is like extremely large, so it gives it this fairy tale type feel to it. And of course I don't want to give anything away, and unfortunately this is one of those where, like, if I say anything I'll give it away. But she questions if everything's as perfect as they think it is. What I will say is that the content of the story isn't what I would typically read. It's not something that I'm really interested in, but it was a really cool way of imagining something. I'm being so vague and people were like, what are you talking about? But it's not at all what you expect. I guess that's what I will say. However, so beautifully written that I'm really excited to pick up more of her other work, because I just thought that this was so cool. It's a subject matter that kind of goes over my head. I don't know much about, so I probably was a little bit more confused than most people up until about halfway through the story. I think most people would be clued in a little bit earlier if they have more insight on the subject. But yeah, really beautiful, beautifully written, really interesting story. I don't know who I would honestly recommend that to. That's kind of a weird one, but it was cool. It was an interesting read. Okay, the next one that I read was Saulina by Philip Fracassi, and I wanted to read more of Philip Fracassi's work because I've only read Boys in the Valley, and I loved that novel. This is a novella. It's about a young boy, or I guess he's not so young now. I think he's maybe in his teens or maybe even early 20s. But basically, after his mother passes away, his entire family just falls apart. His dad goes into a deep depression. His son, the other son, his brother, is carted off to jail for a crime that he commits. So after his brother gets out of jail, this is like his chance to bring his family together. So he's hoping that they can kind of get over this grief that they feel about losing the mom and kind of be a family unit like they once were. They end up going on a boat ride that turns not great, and there are these, I won't go into too much detail because it's a short novella, so I don't want to give too much away, but there's something dangerous. It's not just a typical horror story. The death of his mother and these monsters are definitely related, and it's so fucking interesting if you actually kind of like look beneath the surface and figure out, for me at least, what he's trying to say of how their lives just overcome with the grief of losing their mom, and they're just never gonna be how they were. I don't know, it was a fucking beautiful read to me, and I think Philip Fracassi is awesome. He's an awesome writer. So anyways, I really enjoyed this one. I thought that this was a great book, and you guys know anything that has to do with grief, I'm all in, especially if there's more to the story than just that. So loved that one. I thought it was fantastic, great, awesome, excellent, superb, cool, dope. Those were the books that I've read this month. Let me know what you guys read. We are quickly losing daylight, so I guess I'll get out of here. But thank you so much for watching. I will hopefully see you guys on the live stream. I'll see you in videos before then, but I hope to see you guys in the live stream where we can talk about The Eyes Are the Best Part. You have, over a week now to read it, so if you guys still need a little bit more time, pick it up. Honestly, it'll be so fun to just sit and talk and kind of pick your brain on what you think about the story. I'm really excited for it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with another horror video. Bye guys!
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.